So I did this kind of cool thing a while back, and you just think, well, this could be neat. And I strongly encourage everyone here to make this happen for you. I sent a blank book called My Dad, and it was all kinds of questions. It was about his growing up years and the trouble he got into and what he'd learned from his parents, and it was just everything all throughout his life. And bless his heart, he actually filled it out. And then because he was afraid his handwriting was too bad, he also typed it up. So, that's Dad. And so I thought, what a great treasure to have. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful to Dad that he took the time to go through it. So I just picked out some. I didn't, you're not going to hear about his intramural sports or, his first job. But I picked ones that kind of represented throughout his life. So, Dad, when you were a kid, what was your favorite holiday and how did your family celebrate it? Christmas, exclamation point. We always opened our packages on Christmas Eve. When we lived near enough, we visited our grandparents over the holiday. One year when we were living on the ranch, I got a pair of hockey skates. I was practically begging for them, but I didn't think I would get them. What a surprise. I promptly went out and sprained my ankle on them and had to wait quite a while to actually use them. All the ranches around had stock ponds that froze over in the winter, so a bunch of us would get together to play hockey or race. Great fun. Dad, what was the worst trouble you got into when you were younger? I was hoping for a bank robbery. When I was in second grade, so at least he started early, right? When I was in second grade, I thought it would be fun to walk home from school with a friend. I had plenty of time before the school bus came. It was so much fun that I decided to walk home with another friend when I got back to the school. I was sure I had lots of time. Well, he lived further away than I thought, so you guessed it. I missed my bus. I was so scared. I think it was the principal that took me home. We lived miles out in the country. I knew I was in big trouble, and I was. Dad, what are one or two things you did that you didn't tell your parents about? One time in 8th grade at Terrebonne, 7 friends and I skipped school at lunchtime to go swimming. We caught a ride with a friendly truck driver, some of us knew. He dropped us off at the swimming hole and picked us up later so we could get back in time to catch the school bus home. It didn't take the school long to let our parents know about it, and that's when I learned about grounding. Dad, what was your favorite memory of your dad and your mom? My best times with Dad were deer hunting. Sometimes it was just the two of us, and other times we were with family and friends. We had a good time, but we didn't always have success. One favorite time with Mom was a trip that Irene and I took her to the World's Fair in Vancouver, BC. We had our travel trailer and did some other sightseeing in Canada while we were there. Another time, it was a trip to Mount St. Helens. Mom, Irene, and I took breakfast, lunch, and dinner and made a day of it. Dad, what's the best thing your dad and or your mom taught you? Dad taught me to work hard and to know right from wrong. Mom taught us to always have faith in the Lord and not be afraid. Nothing bad would happen to us that wasn't in His plan. Dad, what do you remember about the birth of your children? I remember the births of my daughters as clearly as if it was yesterday. What a wonderful time. You were all so special. I remember being nervous about being a father and excited at the same time. Dad, what was it like to become a father? One of the things you first realize after the initial thrill was the responsibility to make sure your children have a good home and their needs are taken care of. Always there was a concern about money. Fortunately, I was always able to get a job. Dad, what is one of your favorite memories of being a dad? Seeing my girls all grown up and being able to share in their lives as moms and grandmas. Dad, what was the best thing about being a father? And what was the hardest? The best thing is sharing the love with my daughters. The hardest was losing one. Excuse me. Dad, who are the people you most admire and why? I admire my wife, Irene, for being such a good mother and loving companion. I always admired my mother, but especially after she suffered a stroke. She became an inspiration to others because of her attitude and her ability to move on to do things she'd never done. She was writing poetry. She learned to use a computer one-handed. I admire my girls for their successes in life. And finally, I admire my sister for being my rock in my life, always there for me. Dad, what is your perfect day? I so love this. A perfect day could be when the Cowboys lose. Yes. But seriously, a perfect day for me was when I had the opportunity to spend it hiking with my grandson, Glenn. And finally, Dad, how do you want future generations of your family to remember you? I would like to be remembered as someone who cared. And I just want to share one more thing because this is just so special to me. But when Dad decided, okay, that's it, I can't be down here on my own anymore. I'm on oxygen 24/7. And we had talked about him coming and moving with us. We had a bedroom, we had a bathroom. There was room for him. I could handle his dogs, kind of. But when he came, of course, we had this series of people who we knew. We did not have a lot of time left. In fact, it was only 6 weeks from the time we moved him into my house until he passed. But we had, the sisters all there, and then the last company that we had was Uncle Neil and Auntie and Charlene and Jerry. And I watched Dad's progression in those first 5 weeks up until they got there, about 4.5, 5 weeks. And he was doing okay, He'd grab a bag of frozen tater tots because he always had a lot of pain in his side, and that would be his ice pack. And then we'd throw it back in the freezer. And then one day I noticed he had switched on to hash brown potatoes. Actually, hash browns O'Brien. And so then he was using that, and that was his new, now inedible ice pack. And I said, Dad, I'm moving the seafood to the other freezer. You can use all the taters you want. But he was, he was in the game. I would make him little milkshakes and things, and he was still communicative, and, we had great moments. And there were a lot of I loves you back and forth. But I could really tell he was fading. And when Auntie came and he rallied. They sat outside on our front deck and visited, talked, and just really got to have this very special time together. And of course, Neil, who he considered his brother. And then they left and they went home. And he said, okay, we're good. And it was like he had to see Auntie. He had to spend that time with his rock. And I'm so grateful that you came and that you had that time with him. But it was also, I think, very intentional that he asked me to come. Lisa let me know she had arrived. We knew it was close, and she let me know he wanted help sitting up, and I didn't recognize it at the time, and he was trying to say goodbye. And we left the room, and he stopped breathing. He did it on his own terms. He did it the way he wanted to, and I just feel like that's total peace for him to say, okay, I've done what I needed to do here, and I'm ready to go. So I love you so much, Auntie, and I'm so glad you had that time with him. You're an amazing big sister.